Welcome to the Sacred Heart Convent virtual class of English for the students of 11th standard. Today we start with English reader Hornbill. Please open your book to the first lesson, The Portrait of a Lady. This story is a real life account of the author Khushwant Singh. Okay, let me tell you something about Khushwant Singh. He is one of the best known writers of India and was a versatile man. He was a writer, of course, but also a lawyer, a diplomat, a politician, a journalist. He remained the editor of the Hindustan Times and a columnist with both the Tribune and the Hindustan Times for a good number of years. He lived for a century, but unfortunately we lost him just 11 months before he could celebrate his 100th birthday. Born in February 1915, we lost him in 2014 March. Students, his works have a unique quality of openness. He has never worn a garb of words to hide away any kind of emotion, positive or negative. He writes frankly about them. And this you will perceive in the story that we are going to read today. He has candidly mentioned how his relationship with one of his family members became a distant one, a detached one as he grew up. Now the title says The Portrait of a Lady. The portrait, word portrait, immediately brings to our mind a sketch, a painting, or a photo done with pencils, colors, or paints and brushes. Khushwant Singh has painted a portrait, but not with all these things. He has made this portrait with words. He's painted a verbal portrait, and this lady here is his grandmother. Now here are these expressions which will occur in the story. We will discuss them in the context of the story as we come across these. I want all of you to participate with me. My grandmother, like everybody's grandmother, was an old woman. She had been old and wrinkled for 25 years that I had known her. People said she had once been young and pretty and had even had a husband, but that was hard to believe. Why did he find hard to believe? Because Khushwant Singh could never visualize her as young. Since the day he had started recognizing her as his grandmother, she was old and he had seen her as old only. My grandfather's portrait hung above the mantelpiece in the drawing room. Mantelpiece is a shelf which is in the drawing room to display the important things or maybe some decorative pieces, and above that shelf a portrait, a framed photograph of the grandfather was hanging. He wore a big turban and loose fitting clothes. His long white beard covered the best part of his chest. Now because he had a long beard, so his chest was covered, and he looked at least 100 years old. Now in our families, Indian families, it's a custom to put the framed photographs of our grandparents or any other family members if unfortunately they're no more with us, just as a mark of remembrance and respect. So it was clear that the grandfather was no more and his photo hung there. It hung above the mantelpiece, above that shelf, and he says it looked like he was 100 years old. So these two words, 100 and old, they intensify that he was quite old, very, very old. He did not look the sort of person who would have a wife or children. He looked as if he could only have lots and lots of grandchildren. So that means nobody could imagine that he was once upon a time young. As for my grandmother being young and pretty, the thought was almost revolting. So Khushwant Singh tries to convince that he could never perceive his grandmother to be young, because he had seen her in the same physical condition for so many years, for 20 years as he mentions above. So he says he could not ever see her as young, or could never understand that she was young once. She often told us the games she used to play as a child that seemed quite absurd and undignified. Now he says she often told us about the games she used to play as a child. Children, they are playful, and usually at times they behave silly in their innocence. So Khushwant Singh says it seemed quite absurd, very strange and crazy about the grandmother behaving in that silly manner, and moreover it was undignified on her part. Undignified, it was disrespectful on her part, it did not suit her image. How could she indulge in these frivolous talks as the children do? So he says, we treated it like the fables of the prophets. So whenever she narrated her pranks or the childhood pranks that they used to play or the stories, Khushwant Singh used to consider this as fables. Fables are the stories with a moral lesson. Of the prophets, of the saints, she used to tell us. Now the saints, usually they narrate stories with a moral lesson, they narrate the fables because they want to teach people some ethical values, and these are all imaginary. So the writer thought whatever stories the grandmother narrated to them about her childhood were all her fantasies, were all her imaginary stories. She had always been short and fat and slightly bent. She had a stoop in her back. Because of old age, the bones become deformed and they become fragile. So she had a stoop. Her face was a crisscross of wrinkles running from everywhere to everywhere. Crisscross, that means all over the face. Her face was completely covered with lines and folds of skin. There were wrinkles. Now we were certain she had always been as we had known her. So now he's adding to that belief that she could never be young because she had so many wrinkles on her face. So he says, old, so terribly old. Old, so terribly old. He's repeating. This repetition of the word old and old again heightens the impact on us that she was quite old. And also Khushwant Singh is trying to convince the readers that she could not, or she could never have been young as she said, and had stayed at the same age for 20 years. Again it is reaffirming that she was old. She could never have been pretty, but she was always beautiful. Now pretty and beautiful are two adjectives which mean eye-catching. But he's creating a contrast. He says she could never have been pretty but beautiful. So pretty means he refers to the physical features. Perhaps she did not have those eye-catching features. She was not attractive to look at, but she was always beautiful. Beautiful means she had a unique charm about herself, a chaste beauty, or let's say an inner beauty which reflected on her face. She hobbled about the house in spotless white. Hobbled, to walk with the limp because of her old age, because of the deformity of the bones. She hobbled about the house in spotless white. Spotless white means very clean. White refers to the attire or the clothes that she wore. They were white in color. And spotless means they were very clean, without any speck of stains or dirt. So her one hand rested on her waist to balance her stoop, and the other telling the beads of her rosary. So you can immediately imagine, we get an image of the grandmother. She's walking with a stoop, one hand on her waist and the other telling. Telling means counting the beads of her rosary. Rosary is kind of a string of beads which usually the people hold to utter the word of God. Right? So they keep repeating the name of the God or the religion that they believe in. So she also used to keep counting the beads of her rosary. Her silver locks were scattered untidily over her pale, puckered face. Her silver locks. Silver again means they were white in color, and locks refers to the curly hair. So her hair, which were little curly, they were white in color, reflected silver color, and they were scattered untidily. Scattered means they were not, properly done, or they were not tied neatly. They scattered over her pale, puckered face. Pale, why? Because she had lost all her bright and youthful face. And puckered. Puckered refers to the loose skin. When the old people, they become very old, their skin becomes loose, and the jawless face along with the lips, they appear to be very squeezed, and the skin on the face appears to be in folds. So she had a puckered face, and her lips constantly moved in inaudible prayer. Inaudible, which could not be heard clearly. Perhaps she kept muttering the prayers, but they were not clear. Yes, she was beautiful. Again, he's repeating, this repetition is actually affirming that he found her very beautiful. Khushwant Singh says, or what he wants to say, that his grandmother had a very clean heart, a pure heart that radiated on her face. She was like the winter landscape in the mountains. So he compares her with the winter landscape. Now, winter landscape, when we go into the mountains and all these hills are covered with snow, it gives a very soothing, a very calm and a quiet feeling. We feel very relaxed. Similarly, the grandmother's appearance gave a feeling of calmness and quietness. She was an expanse of pure white serenity. Serenity again means very composed, very calm. There's a lot of calmness. This calmness or this serenity could be seen on the grandmother's face. It also showed that this lady had no kind of discomfort, no disappointment towards life, or any kind of discontentment. A very poised lady, untroubled lady, and she breathed peace and contentment. Peace and contentment. Contentment means she was very satisfied with life. She reflected a kind of a spiritual aura. The light of the purity of her heart reflected on her face, radiated on her face. So you can see how Khushwant Singh has captured her physical, her mental, her external and internal features just like an artist, but he has painted it with words, and he gives us a visual image of what she looked like. Now we move to the next paragraph. My grandmother and I were good friends. My parents left me with her when they went to live in the city, and we were constantly together. She used to wake me up in the morning and get me ready for school. She said her morning prayer in a monotonous sing-song while she bathed and dressed me, in the hope that I would listen and get to know it by heart. So the morning time when she used to ready her grandson to go to school, she kept uttering those words of prayer. Monotonous means it was continuous, a dull, unchanging tone she used to sing in, and she had a hope that perhaps listening to it, the grandson would learn it. I listened because I loved her voice, but never bothered to learn it. See how candidly he is saying that I love to listen to her voice, but never bothered to learn. So he is frankly admitting that he was very complacent, he never wanted to learn it. Then she would fetch my wooden slate, which she had already washed and plastered with yellow chalk, a tiny earthen ink pot and a red pen, tie them all in a bundle and hand it to me. So they did not have books in those times, or the note copies in those times. They used to write on the piece of wood. After a breakfast of thick stale chapati with a little butter and sugar spread on it, we went to school. She carried several stale chapatis with her for the village dogs. So this was his breakfast: stale chapati, butter and sugar. In those days, this was a healthy breakfast. And along with them, when they went to the school, she would carry stale chapatis for the dogs to feed. My grandmother always went to school with me because the school was attached to the temple. The priest taught us the alphabet and the morning prayer. While the children sat in rows on either side of the veranda singing the alphabet or the prayer in a chorus. Chorus means they sang in unison, together they repeated. My grandmother sat inside reading the scriptures. So the adjoining temple, the grandmother would sit there and read the holy books. Scriptures, the holy books. When we had both finished, we would walk back together. This time the village dogs would meet us at the temple door because they knew that they would be fed with the stale chapatis. They followed us to our home, growling and fighting with each other for the chapatis we threw to them. So each fighting for a bigger share of food. When my parents were comfortably settled in the city, they sent for us. That was a turning point in our friendship. Turning point. So that was an important point, a juncture where there was a change in their relationship, in their friendship. Till now, they had been constant companions to each other. Although we shared the same room, my grandmother no longer came to school with me. I used to go to an English school in a motor bus. There were no dogs in the streets, and she took to feeding sparrows in the courtyard of a city. So what happened? There was a drastic change that took place in their bonding. Now they were not constant companions to each other. He started going to the English school, and that too not on foot but by a motor bus. Instead of the dogs, the grandmother started feeding the sparrows. This also shows that the grandmother was a very compassionate lady. Her kindness towards the animals can be seen here. She first fed the dogs, and now that the dogs were not available, she fed the sparrows. As the years rolled by, we saw less of each other. See the change? For some time, she continued to wake me up and get me ready for school. When I came back home, she would ask me what the teacher had taught me. Now the distancing had already started. Still, she was keen on what he learned, and she would ask him what was taught to him. I would tell her English words and little things of Western science and learning, the law of gravity, Archimedes' principle, the world being round, etc. This made her unhappy. She could not help me with my lessons. She was unhappy because she did not really approve all these things, and moreover she was unable to help him now. She did not believe in the things they taught at the English school and was distressed that there was no teaching about God and the scriptures. So she felt quite agitated, quite saddened about the fact that they were not taught any lessons there were no moral teachings given to them. One day I announced that we were being given music lessons. She was very disturbed. So when Khushwant Singh told her that he is learning music at school, she became quite agitated, quite disturbed. She was disheartened because she felt that music had lewd associations. Lewd means cheap or indecent, immoral connections. It was the monopoly of harlots and beggars. Monopoly means it was meant for harlots. It was the domain of the harlots only. Harlots are the women of loose character. So she felt that this was only suitable, or it was the domain of the harlots only. It was not meant for the gentlefolk. Gentlefolk, the cultured families, the well-bred families, it was not meant for them. She said nothing, but her silence meant disapproval. Though she did not raise her voice against him learning in an English school, but she showed her disapproval by keeping silent. She rarely talked to me after that. So her denial towards the kind of education that he was receiving, it was said through her silence. She rarely talked to me after that. That means again it is showing that they're becoming detached to each other. So that's all for today, students. We will cover the second part of the story in the next class. Read the part of the story that I have explained, and you will get certain questions on it which you will have to answer as the assignment. The questions will be in the WhatsApp group. So thank you.